All three of you, I'd like you to talk about hope, because people that are out there might be in despair, but you guys are experts from coming from despair into hope. And each one of you wanted to bail out, and your mates, I mean, Fred, yours said, all the feelings were dead. So how do you start if you're in despair to get to hope?
Well, I was in despair, and, I knew it was over, and I didn't know what to do. So I turned really to God. At first I said, look, I'll do anything. And, when you tell the Lord that you'll do anything, He is right on the edge of His seat ready to speak and ready to help. And He, first of all, He spoke through the pastor, talked to me about mutual submission. But then He opened my eyes through a couple of situations. I was at a friend's wedding a few weeks later, and I had the opportunity to see how my family treated Brenda when I wasn't around, because I was in a spot up there practicing for the wedding. They were all down on the other side of the church. My family didn't know I was watching. And I saw how they treated Brenda. For the first time, I realized Brenda has more gifts than I do in relationships. I mean, she saw what they were doing to her, and I never saw it. And I saw for the first time that I could be blind and that I could be wrong. And once God had shown that to me through that situation, that I could be blind and I could be wrong, I was open enough then to be able to listen to her more, and our whole communication patterns changed after that. And so where the hope lies is in giving your heart to God's truths and allowing Him then to come in and speak to you.
Steve, you were talking about the fact that wherever a person is at right now, don't despair, there is hope. Continue.
Well, John, other than your show, one of my favorite shows is What Not to Wear. And it's just an amazing thing to see these people go from being very resistant to change their wardrobe to seeing that they've been dressing pretty crummy and committing fashion suicide. And the guy that is on the show, Clinton, one day he said, sometimes you don't know you need help until you get help. And it's true about the way people dress, and it's true about your marriage, and it's true about who you are. If you would open yourself up to have somebody come in and take a look at your marriage and the way that you're dealing with things, look at you personally, you might discover that there are a lot of things that need some help. And if you're willing to do that, the sky's the limit on what you can experience. I have a little GPS thing in my car, and I have ADD, and the most common thing I hear is recalculating route. And I know that God takes all of our mistakes, and wherever we end up, whatever road, He recalculates that route and pulls it back together and leads us where we need to go. And if you will humble yourself to God, be willing to get some help. We've got a Every Man's Battle workshop, Every Heart Restore. We do all these things. Fred and Shannon, they do these seminars. If you'll open yourself up to get some help and open yourself up to God's truth, you can have the marriage that you always dreamed you had, or maybe never dreamed that you could. You can have that. It's possible.
Shannon, what difference does it make? What are the benefits for those who are Christians? Why is that different than for the non-Christian? What do you have going for you as a Christian that you didn't have going for you as a non-Christian?
Well, as a non-Christian, the only hope that you have is in another human being. And you, as a broken human being, can't depend on another broken human being to fix you. But Christians, we serve a God who understands our brokenness, who can sympathize with our weaknesses, who gives us more grace than we could possibly ever need. And for me, the hope, when I look at what my marriage relationship was like at that 7-year mark, when I had that 7-year itch and I wanted to go looking for love with someone else and telling my husband, you just don't meet my emotional needs. Well, this week we celebrate our 17th wedding anniversary. So it was 10 years ago that I was feeling that way. And when I look at how I feel toward my husband now versus how I felt a decade ago, I am astounded. It feels as if I'm with a totally different person. But I know that Greg is still the same person he was. It's that I have become a different person. And that truly your hope lies in opening yourself up to God to have Him reveal the things about you that need to change in order for you to have the lifestyle that you need to have to feel as if you're a woman of character and integrity, so that you can have the relationship that you long to have.
You were
as
also
well.
sexually abused. Talk about forgiveness.
I made a long list of the people that I needed to forgive. Every person who sexually abused me, my father for not being aware or protecting me, my mother for not warning me that it could happen. But the biggest person was myself. I had to understand that, as a young child, it was not my fault. And even as an older woman, I was making judgments based on the experiences I had had in the past. I was walking wounded and trying to use sex and love relationships to medicate my emotional pain, and I finally had to get to the place where I gave myself the grace to be human and just said, it's forgiven. That when Jesus Christ died on the cross, he didn't say, forgive them for their sins except for the sexual ones. Those are too big. I'm not dying for those. I had to believe with all my heart that the blood that Jesus shed for me is more than sufficient to cover all of my sins, and that I can walk in that freedom every day.
One last word, Fred?
Well, victory is possible too. A lot of times we think, well, just how far can this go? Not only in marriage, which now I'm 25 years married after being at the point where she wanted to go. In the sexual arena, I want to talk to all the young men and the men to understand that I have now gone 18 years without masturbating. Now that's huge for me. And my son just got married. He had his first kiss at the altar. He has never masturbated, never looked at porn on the computer. And when you think about who he is, he was the 2-year-old toddler that I was looking at and saying, oh, I can never help him. But because I turned my heart over to the Lord taught me how to win so I could teach my son how to win. My whole family tree has changed, and and there's no such thing as saying, oh, wow, this is a temporary thing. This is a permanent victory. God has that kind of power and, more importantly, that kind of love. He's aching to help you.